Do you struggle with anxiety, depression, mood swings, or fatigue? Do you have stretch marks, thin hair or nails, or burn easily? Or do you have a family history of depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, ADD or ADHD, or autism? On today's episode, we're taking a sudden turn into a topic that few of my clients ever hear about prior to coming to my office, yet it affects up to 10% of the general population, and that is Pyrrole disorder. If you've never heard of Pyrrole disorder before, you are in for a treat. On today's episode, I'm breaking down what Pyrrole disorder is, who can get it, how you have the symptoms of Pyrrole disorder without actually having the disorder, and how to treat and manage it so you can live symptom-free. If you've been looking for better solutions to your gut health, mental health, or less than desirable hair, skin, and nail health, then this episode is for you. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly Podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns, literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. All right, guys. So admittedly, the first thing I'm thinking of as I record this episode is I am really intrigued to how you found this podcast episode. And that could be because Pyrrole disorder is very undiscussed in medicine. It is something that even my clients who've been to multiple functional doctors or naturopathic doctors, integrative, etc., have never heard of when I bring it up to them as a potential thing that may be going on for them, if I think that it might be going on for them. I honestly have had only a handful of clients even mention it to me as something that their doctors have checked them for, or that they know that they have or don't have. And so I'm guessing if you are here, you either have somehow stumbled across the concept of Pyrrole disorder, whether that's just through blog posts or maybe a practitioner who mentions it to you, or you simply have been looking for things like, why do you have your chronic anxiety, stretch marks, thin nails, bloating, that I put in the podcast episode title. And maybe you've never heard of Pyrrole disorder before and you just are here. Especially if you're in the second category, I'm so glad you're here. If you're in the first category, I'm also glad you're here. I'm glad that you have been introduced to the concept of Pyrrole disorder, because plenty of you who are listening to this don't have it, but according to data, 10% of the general population has it. And fun fact, the likelihood that you have it increases when you look at specific segments of populations. For example, 24% of children with ADHD or behavioral issues have Pyrrole disorder. 42% of people with mental health conditions have Pyrrole disorder, and over 52% of people with schizophrenia have Pyrrole disorder. So that's some very interesting real statistics out there that really suggest this there could be some benefit to more people knowing about this, or more practitioners, not just knowing, talking about it, doing things about it. And you are here to help heal yourself, and you are learning about this wonderful, wonderful thing that you might have. And by wonderful, I don't mean it's, your body working the way it should, but once you know about it, it is totally treatable, totally manageable. You can totally help support this. And on today's episode, I'm going to tell you how to do that. So before we jump into treatment and management of Pyrrole disorder, let's talk about what Pyrrole disorder is. So broadly, Pyrrole disorder occurs when the body produces too many Pyrroles in response to stress. And the way that these too many Pyrroles get created is typically through a genetic mutation. So it's generally going to be a genetic issue or genetic disorder passed through families, where your body creates these excess Pyrroles. And Pyrroles we all naturally create. When they are created, they will bind to key nutrients in the body, particularly zinc and B6, and then they will take them out of the body. So you, as a normal person going through somewhat stressful responses like traffic or a fight with your spouse or work stress or trying to put a wedding together, or whatever life stage you're in or whatever things you're going through right now, it could be very average levels of stress, but you're producing more Pyrroles if you have this disorder than somebody else, and you're pulling out key nutrients from your body, which is going to give you additional symptoms. Now, one thing before we move on to what those symptoms are that needs to be addressed early on here is that even if you don't have Pyrrole disorder, you can actually mimic Pyrrole disorder. It can either be exacerbated or essentially caused by chronic illness situations, especially when pathogens are involved like Lyme disease or parasites. These two in particular, Lyme disease, I actually have a PDF article that I'm going to share with you how you can get access to. And it's just on Pyrrole disorder and Lyme disease and actual research that's been done on how Lyme disease can basically cause or make someone look like they have Pyrrole disorder, meaning they're going to have low B6, low zinc, and then all the symptoms of these two issues without having Pyrrole disorder. So that's the additional thing that's really interesting, is having the disorder is a yes or no situation on a genetic level. But if you are struggling with chronic illness, and many more of you are who are listening to this podcast, who are listening to Better Belly podcasts in general, or listening to podcasts to try and fix yourself or heal yourself, you likely are dealing with chronic illness, even if you don't know all the root causes behind it. Maybe you have an idea. Maybe you know you have Lyme disease that is being activated in your body, or other pathogens that you're trying to get rid of or deal with. You could actually be essentially dealing with zinc and B6 deficiencies, which is you're just going to listen to this episode and feel like this describes your life. That there's a lot of overlap and similarity between Pyrrole disorder, even if you don't have it, and the symptoms you're having. So please listen in and just know that if you line up a lot with this episode, it doesn't mean you have the disorder, but it could mean that you are B6 and zinc deficient, and there's still going to be some really great takeaways for you. So let's talk about symptoms. So a lot of the bulk of symptoms of Pyrrole disorder are going to be centered around symptoms of B6 and zinc deficiencies. And when you put both of the symptoms of these deficiencies together, you get a wide swath of impact across the body. So I'm just going to start listing out different things, and just to let them sweep over you, see what connects with you. But B6 is essential in over 50 enzymatic brain-specific reactions. It plays an important role in your nervous system's balance, and it is required to utilize protein for energy, and a deficiency of B6 can create ongoing anxiety, depression, and fatigue. So a really key component that I've already highlighted in this episode is that if you have Pyrrole disorder or at least B6 deficiency, then you are setting yourself up for a lot of mental health issues. So if you know, you're raising your hand, I'm on, anxiety medication, depressant medication, or there's a family history of mental health issues, bipolar disorder, whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed, you're just like, there's a lot of all this going on, definitely can be a sign of B6 deficiency. Then zinc has a marked effect on mood states, but also things, especially skin health and the immune system. And it does have some impact on the digestive system. So zinc enhances your resistance to stress, which is interesting because that would help you reduce stress to manage your Pyrrole disorder. But it also helps maintain intellectual function, memory, and mood levels. Poor stress control, nervousness, anxiety, mood swings, inner tension, anger, depression, aggressiveness, and learning problems are all hallmarks of zinc deficiency and Pyrrole disorder. Zinc deficiency can also lead to poor nail, skin, and hair health. So you're going to think on your nails, really fun. I've actually seen this almost my entire childhood. I had these white spots on my nails, and I thought I had like bumped my nails onto something. I do not have Pyrrole disorder. I've checked myself, but I did have zinc deficiency for a good chunk of time, I think due to PPI usage from having some acid reflux when I was in middle school. But had these white spots on my nails that when they appear, they grow out with the nail bed. And that is actually a sign of zinc deficiency, these white spots, but also acne, eczema, psoriasis, thin hair, thin skin, difficulty tanning, and or like just you burn in the sun no matter what, susceptibility to stretch marks, and thin or flimsy nails. I also have an additional list here, which is in alphabetical order opposed to being split up by B6 or zinc. So this is a mix of both. Listen to this and see what speaks to you. But abdominal tenderness and pain. I will shout out that's a zinc issue typically because zinc is a part of having appropriate stomach acid levels. And if you have low stomach acid, you're going to increase your likelihood of having bloating and digestion problems, malabsorption, inflammation in the gut, acne, eczema, psoriasis, allergies, amenorrhea or irregular periods, infertility, reduced libido, anxiety, nervousness, depression, ADHD, autism, B6 responsive anemia, cold hands and feet, constipation, low stomach acid, bloating, fatigue, lethargy, coarse eyebrows, thin hair, nails and skin, dandruff, delayed puberty, emotional liability, explosive or episodic anger, familial hypoglycemia, glucose intolerance, food allergies and sensitivities, knee and joint pain, light, sound, and odor intolerance, usually because the brain isn't getting what it needs. So it's nutrient-wise, so it's becomes sensory. You're sensitive to sensory things. Mood swings, obesity, pale skin, poor tanning, easily burning, paranoia, poor breakfast appetite or nausea in the morning. That's also often low stomach acid. Can also be other pathogens being present, so don't rule that out, or make sure that you are being checked for other pathogens, H. pylori, parasites, SIBO, things like that, things that we address in my program, the Better Belly Blueprint. Poor dream recall, insomnia, poor short-term memory, poor memory of childhood, stress intolerance, stretch marks, substance abuse, tremor, shaking, spasms, and social withdrawal. And I know some of this might already feel like I've already said these things, but associated conditions, meaning things that are actually diagnoses that you might find in your family lineage specifically to consider. Is there a family history of diagnoses of depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, ADHD, autism, alcoholism, Down syndrome, heavy metal toxicity issues, especially because zinc helps balance and make sure that it's not as easy for heavy metals to invade, or things like copper to become imbalanced. We're going to talk about copper a little bit more here. Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis or MS, Parkinson's disease, schizophrenia, and epilepsy. Like, just a very interesting list of things that could entirely look like, they're epileptic, we don't know why, or everybody in our family has this thing. And really there could be a Pyrrole disorder behind all of it. So the big question now becomes, how can I support this? How can I know if I have it? So the good news is Pyrrole disorder, or also can be described as pyroluria, Pyroluria, pyroluria. It's correctable through simple nutrient therapies of B6, zinc, and possibly a few other nutrients that work together with them. You can rebalance those nutrient deficiencies that pyroluria causes. The one thing that's most interesting about Pyrrole disorder is that when people are in my program or have worked with me, one of the most common questions I get is, when can I stop these supplements, or are any of these supplements for life? In general, if you are doing the appropriate therapeutic treatment for something, most of the time you should not be looking at taking supplements for life. However, there are cases where somebody, for some reason, many times genetic, sometimes there's other things going on, they need additional support in a nutrient for the rest of their life. And Pyrrole disorder is a great example of a very specific condition where you are going to benefit from taking B6 and zinc the rest of your life. It's going to be low dose, typically morning and evening, just because you're excreting it at a consistent enough rate that there's most doctors who are familiar with the disorder find that there's a benefit to taking a semi-low dose morning and night opposed to one larger dose just in the morning or just at night. And that's okay. Like if you're like, man, beats, being anxious or depressed or burning every time I step into the sun or having thin hair or whatever symptoms you see improve, that is a small price to pay. And now you're equipped with knowledge and you don't feel harassed by the symptoms of your body or like, I just always have, hypoglycemia or whatever it is that you deal with that goes away. It is a totally empowering thing. And so for most clients, I say, for most of you, these supplements are going to be temporary until they've run their therapeutic gamut to do what they're intended to do in your body. But for some people, we're going to come across issues like Pyrrole disorder that are going to be like, oh, wow, you should just take these the rest of your life. But now and you're so empowered and powered. And that's actually like a positive feeling. So that is how you would correct it. I'm not going to get into dosages and milligrams. I do have a actual protocol that I decided to give you. As I was putting this together, I thought I'm just going to make my Pyrrole disorder protocol available to you and a self-assessment just for $7. So if you go to betterbellytherapies.com/Pyrrole, spelled PYRROLE, betterbellytherapies.com/Pyrrole, or click the link in the show notes. You can get this completely full self-assessment and protocol document that I'm gonna give you. So, and the self-assessment is really interesting. You can do it before you get any testing. I am going to talk about what testing I recommend. This self-assessment and protocol document will also include links in it to be able to get testing for like the actual testing for Pyrrole disorder, which I'm going to talk you through what that is and what it includes and even the current costs for it. This is the links. You don't even have to buy through our office. We don't get any, there's no additional fee you're paying. You're basically just paying the lab for this test. And I think it's super accessible. So if you're just like, I just want to do it, that's great. If you want the self-assessment has a lot of really interesting questions. Like, do you have poor dream recall or nightmares? Or are your eyes sensitive to light? Oh, what was the one that I always think is interesting? Do you dislike eating protein or become vegetarian, or you've become vegetarian because of your dislike of protein? That can actually have to do with zinc deficiency, because zinc is a part of us developing a sense of taste. And so there's taste involved in zinc, there's stomach acid, there's appetite, there's hunger in the morning, there's nausea. If you have a tendency towards constipation, that can be low stomach acid, which can be zinc deficiency driven. The majority of my clients I work with are zinc deficient. Like every now and again, I find someone who's not, but it's feels like it should be 99% of people who work with me are zinc deficient, which we're able to triangulate through testing in the Better Belly Blueprint, like our HTMA test. But I also do some testing, like a baking soda test, which you can get in my constipation handout. It's like a free handout. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/constipation or click the link in the show notes, and you can get my free constipation relief guide, and I give the recipe for a baking soda test in there that can give you an idea of if you have low stomach acid, which again is strong correlations to zinc deficiencies. But all that being said, really, let's see, we're talking about testing here, and I'm giving you did not mean to get myself distracted here. Gave you our Pyrrole disorder self-assessment protocol guide, and then mentioned my constipation relief guide. Oh, for stomach acid. So let's see here. What have we not talked about? Okay, so we've talked about our symptoms, and now let's talk about testing. So if you actually want to know the disorder, because even if you have testing and you have low zinc, you have low B6 from whatever testing that you're going to get. I'm going to tell you a couple ways you could test for those in a second. But the one thing you actually want the most to evaluate your likelihood of having Pyrrole disorder is something called a crypto-Pyrrole test. It is a urine-based test that you can get for $145, just like direct to consumer labs from DHA Labs, which again, the link to going and getting that is inside of my Pyrrole disorder protocol and self-assessment document that you can get. Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/Pyrrole or click the link in the show notes. That is the most important marker. And basically, you're going to take a urine test and you're going to send it in, and you're going to get results that say optimal, borderline, or elevated. If you're optimal, your results will be 0 to 10, borderline is 11 to 15, and elevated is 16 plus. If you're optimal 0 to 10, which is what I was, then you don't have Pyrrole disorder. Now, it doesn't mean you're not zinc deficient. It doesn't mean you're not B6 deficient. It just means you don't specifically have Pyrroles, an elevated amount of Pyrroles that are causing your depletion, essentially. Then borderline means you could have it. It's potentially that the testing wasn't great, or you weren't stressed enough that day. There can be compilations or complications. I usually, if it's borderline, really want to see a bunch of other markers, which I'm about to share what the other markers are, to try and correlate the symptoms with the cryptopyrrole results. And then elevated is 16 plus. And if you're in the elevated marker, 16, 20, 21, 25, I've seen in my office as high as 21, then it's pretty much a positive for Pyrrole disorder. And now you just know you're going to plan that you need to take B6 and zinc the rest of your life, as well as potentially some essential minerals with it. So that's the test. It's honestly super simple. Think it's like, you're like, wow, $145. You do or don't have it. It's a urine-based test. You send it back in. Super simple. It's not rocket science. I think the big thing that makes it more rocket sciencey, more complicated, is that if you have Pyrrole disorder, but you also have, and you might not know this, but mold toxicity or heavy metals or parasites or H. pylori, if you have any other issues going on, it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, to correct your B6 and zinc deficiencies, because your body is going to be getting depleted not just from the Pyrrole disorder, but also from all these other pathogens. And even if you don't have Pyrrole disorder, it can be hard to still correct your zinc and B6 if you have other sources that are depleting you in your vital minerals and nutrients, or causing issues where you can't absorb these vital minerals and nutrients. And so that's what my program, the Better Belly Blueprint, is all about, is helping you find these issues and then work on them in a systematic way, aka don't start with heavy metals. That's just not where you want to start. People talk about it online, just do a heavy metal protocol. I've never seen it work. If somebody has a heavy metal protocol that's simply working, they have a very simple situation going on for them. That is not what's happening when somebody's been to 3 different practitioners and no one's been able to help them yet. So and unfortunately, that's the majority of people listening to this podcast. So that's my caution, is that you don't just say, take this test, even if it comes back positive. Don't just be like, I'm just going to take B6 and zinc and wait for all my symptoms to go away. They might not, because you need to deal with all the other sources of inflammation that are potentially also impacting the levels of these minerals, your ability to absorb them, or their ability to hang around and stick around. So that gets us to additional testing. What other testing can you do on top of this? Well, at basic level, we're looking at blood work. So you can look at zinc plasma, copper serum, and histamine. Why these 3? Well, zinc, obviously, you can get a feel for what your zinc is like in your blood work. Copper. Zinc and copper balance each other out. And if you are deficient in zinc, typically you'll have elevated copper levels. So you get your zinc plasma done, you get your copper serum done. If you're elevated in copper and deficient in zinc, doesn't mean you have Pyrrole disorder, but it is a big sign that you likely have hidden copper toxicity, which requires its own type of protocol. I do not include this in the Pyrrole disorder protocol because you need to safely do it in the right order, but my copper protocol is inside of the Better Belly Blueprint. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint. You can learn more about it. Join there. If you like learning about things in video format, you can go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. And I have a little webinar training for you on how the Better Belly Blueprint works and why it's different than what you've tried before, how it saves you money, and then also really exactly how the method works, as simple as 1, 2, 3 to help you heal in a DIY program with group coaching as an optional add-on. So highly, highly recommend that. If you get this low zinc, high copper ratio back in your blood work, definitely need to work on copper toxicity as its own thing. And then histamine, this has to do with the fact that histamine, this can help you evaluate your methylation capability, and B6 helps you methylate it. So B6 and a lot of B vitamins are involved heavily in the many methylation processes. So if you have high histamine in your body, you might have low B6. But here's the catch. You can have high histamine in your body and it's not being caused by B6. So often it's best to evaluate Pyrrole disorder in a more expansive, holistic format. Even though I want to give you this information so you feel empowered, I don't also want you to order these labs, take B6 and zinc for a while and ask yourself, why didn't this solve anything? And then think that the Better Belly podcast is bogus and that I'm a liar and the truth is not in me. Well, the truth is in me. It's just that the truth sometimes is more complicated than we want it to be. And there's layers. So I'm trying to give you those layers while also keeping things simple and direct. And the last marker that's really interesting is called ceruloplasmin. Ceruloplasmin is a marker made by the adrenal glands, and it is required to detox copper. If you have low ceruloplasmin, it sets you up to be more likely to have copper toxicity. It doesn't cause copper toxicity, or copper toxicity doesn't cause low ceruloplasmin, but low ceruloplasmin will set you up for copper toxicity, if that makes sense. And then once you have copper toxicity, you're more set up for zinc deficiency, et cetera, et cetera. And this is all regardless whether or not you have Pyrrole disorder. It can happen with or without it. Again, the Pyrrole disorder is just going to make everything happen much more aggressively. So those are all the blood work you can get with the crypto-Pyrrole test from DHA Labs. We have links in the Pyrrole disorder protocol that you can go and buy, betterbellytherapies.com/Pyrrole, or click the link in the show notes. Then additionally, the functional lab tests that I use in the Better Belly Blueprint, there's actually a bunch of them that can give you insight into your zinc and B6 levels. The HTMA test, which is a hair test, you can get an insight into both your zinc and your copper levels. The Dutch test has a B6 level marker on it. The organic acids test has a B6 level marker on it as well. So those labs, you're not getting just to evaluate your B6 and zinc. You're evaluating heavy metals. You're evaluating mineral balance. You're evaluating if you have calcium shell. You're evaluating what your hormone levels are. You're evaluating if you have mold toxicity, or if you have elevated oxalate issues, which can also bind to minerals and cause you to be mineral deficient or mineral imbalanced. So the cool thing is when you get functional labs, not just one blood work marker like zinc plasma, when you get a functional lab like an HTMA test, Dutch test, OAT test, and you're evaluating it with like excessively high quality evaluations, which is what I teach you how to do inside the Better Belly Blueprint, to do yourself for you, so you don't have to rely on if a doctor knows how to evaluate it or not. When you do that, you're going to catch all these additional pieces of information and potentially piece together a puzzle of, ooh, I have a parasite, but I also have Pyrrole disorder. And you now understand yourself better and can treat yourself better. So all that additional testing is not available inside the Pyrrole disorder form. That's just a disclaimer. It's something that we only teach you how to analyze when you're a student inside of our program, the Better Belly Blueprint, which you can totally join, or if you are a one-to-one client in our Better Belly VIP program. I do have information in the show notes on how you can join the Better Belly Blueprint or become a Better Belly VIP one-to-one client if you want to do that, which I would love to work with you directly and help you kind of sift through all these layers of things and determine, based off of your symptoms, your health history, any other lab testing you currently have, what labs are going to be the best ones for you to get, because you might not need to even get all of these things. So when it comes to treatment options for Pyrrole disorder, B6 and zinc are going to be your basic things, just like first round of like, this is definitely has to happen. There's some additional beneficial supplements that have been studied, magnesium, biotin, and omega-6s, especially in GLA format, which is actually found in evening primrose oil. So these minerals plus the the dosages that I recommend, as well as the like frequency, etc. They're all inside of my Pyrrole disorder protocol, which again, I've just decided to be able to give to you guys ad hoc, which is normally available, historically has only been available to our one-to-one clients. It's not even in the Better Belly Blueprint. So have at it, go get this Pyrrole disorder document, self-assessment, links to order labs, the actual supplements I recommend, and see if you get some massive relief. But additional factors that can help manage Pyrrole disorder include eliminating pathogens, which steal nutrients from the body, increasing stomach acid to absorb your zinc, eliminating excess exposure to copper through things like water. So you want to filter your water with a water filtration system gets rid of copper. Removing copper birth control, stopping hormonal birth control, because hormonal birth control will cause the body to hold on to excess copper. It's why copper-based birth control works, is because copper is pro-estrogenic and estrogen's pro-copper. So if you're on, estrogen of any sort or have excess estrogen dominance, you're more set up for copper toxicity, and then doing a copper detox protocol itself to get rid of excess copper you've been exposed to in the past. Additionally, you want to reduce inflammation sources such as food sensitivities, which can disrupt nutrient absorption, reduce your heavy metal load, and avoid oversupplementation of omega-3s, which can disrupt balance with omega-6s. So that is it. That's the Pyrrole disorder, flyby, what it is, where it comes from, how you get it, how it can interlay and play with your overall chronic illness symptoms, how you can actually basically have all the symptoms of Pyrrole disorder without having it if you have chronic illness issues going on, and then how to start reversing it, how to test to know if you have it, and then what ongoing treatments you would need to just manage it the rest of your life, and maybe have thicker, fuller hair and nails that don't break and other fun, beautiful things. So I hope this was super enlightening to you, empowered you, inspired you, gave you some hope. There are more things out there than what your doctors have maybe told you about. And if it feels like the right thing, grab that Pyrrole disorder self-assessment and protocol that I've made available to you by going to betterbellytherapies.com/Pyrrole, Pyrrole, or clicking the link in the show notes. And lastly, I did mention this at the very beginning of the episode, that there's a PDF I have on Pyrrole disorder and Lyme disease, and that PDF is also inside of our Pyrrole disorder self-assessment and protocol. So all of that's in there. I'm literally looking at it right now. It's so juicy. I'm so proud of this document that I put together on Pyrrole disorder and the protocol. And I hope that for any of you who that is just the right fit for you right now, that it is empowering and gives you what you need to heal. So thanks for joining us this week on the Better Belly podcast. If you are new here, I want to invite you to subscribe. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/get-the-fault. And you can actually get all of our episodes organized by category. It's just a spreadsheet. We update it every month with our newest episodes. And you can even use a search function to type in words that are of your interest. So whether it's constipation or bloating or Lyme disease or mold, you can find all our episodes that have those topics and in one easy, simple place, and be able to just peruse through the whole podcast, especially if you're new. We have so many episodes that are so juicy. I want you to be able to find them. And if you have been here for a while, just want to say thanks for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this episode and feel more empowered than ever in your health. And I'll see you guys next week. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening. You can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of. And you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.